I think it's horrible too. I think it helps Trump politically. I really do. We'll get into all this. I really think it helps him politically, but it's horrible for the country. And it's going to be horrible for him to go through. And it's going to be horrible for us to go through.
It's horrible for the system, if you ask my opinion. I mean, I was an intern in that office. My dad worked in that office for many years under Frank Hogan. I was obviously a prosecutor in New York City. I've been a criminal defense attorney. I've been in that world for 50 years. My whole life I've been in and out of that building between my dad and myself. And it's just, this is not the case. Mr. Trump may have some big issues in Georgia. He may have some big issues in Mar-a-Lago about the documents. I read today that they subpoenaed the Secret Service agents about the Mar-a-Lago case and the document case. But this case, there's no victim here. Let's just say it's 100% accurate. There is no victim. And in your introduction, you talked about prosecutorial discretion. And that's why Cy Vance, the previous prosecutor, who I believe was on one of the big shows yesterday, Meet the Press, said, he wouldn't really get into why he didn't prosecute Trump, even though it's the same evidence that he had 16 months ago as Alvin Bragg has today. Well, because he used his prosecutorial discretion, that this was not the case that needed to be brought. There's not going to be a family sitting behind the prosecutor tomorrow saying, thank you for bringing justice to my family, whether it's for violent crime, financial crime. There's not going to be someone there from the IRS saying, thank you for bringing the millions of dollars that Mr. Trump cheated us back into the fold. It's a victimless crime, even under the worst case scenario. So why bring it? Why abuse, in my opinion, your prosecutorial discretion? I don't know the answer to that question.
Alvin Bragg said that he bragged when he was running, pardon the pun, Alvin bragged, that he had gone after Trump, I think sued him over 100 times in the past, and that he would prosecute him if they put him in the DA's office. And then he won a very tight race. And he was put in the DA's office. At first, he didn't prosecute. Then somebody from his office resigned in protest saying you should go after him on all these alleged business crimes. Why didn't you do it? You're weak. And so then he brings this case, and even that guy who wrote the book saying, you're weak, you should have gone after the business crimes, is calling this a zombie case, saying, this wasn't it. This wasn't the one. There's so many other good things you could have done against him, but it's very clearly a political move. And, it's being cheered in some circles. It's being, a lot of Democrats even are very worried about this, Dave. But I will say, just to bring the audience up to speed, he's right. There's no victim. This stems from a payment of $130,000. We think, just to be very transparent, we don't know. We haven't seen the indictment. It gets unveiled tomorrow at the arraignment. So the speculation is based on pre-indictment reporting. We think it stems from a $130,000 payment that was made by Michael Cohen, Trump's fixer/lawyer, back in 16, to stop her from going public with an interlude she had with Donald Trump, a sexual interlude. He denies it ever happened. She allegedly was saying, I'm going to come out with it. I may file a lawsuit based on it. She was represented by Michael Avenatti, who's also weighing in on this. And the allegation is that Trump, through his fixer, Michael Cohen, paid her $130,000 to make it go away. Now, if that's all that had happened, Alvin Bragg would admit he has no claim against Donald Trump. Alvin Bragg, the New York DA, gets involved because he says, you know what Trump then did? Trump then wrote down that $130,000 payment on his books in a way that hid it from tax authorities and New York State authorities and said it was just legal payments to Cohen. And that was dishonest. Well, that's normally a misdemeanor. But Alvin Bragg says I can elevate it to a felony because it was done to cover up another crime. What was the other crime? The alleged violation of federal election law. That was that $130,000 payment right before an election. Well, that's only a felony. That's only a violation of federal election law if you do it for the sole purpose. Your sole purpose has to be to make your electoral chances be better. It can't be to make Melania happier, to make myself not be as embarrassed when Barron Trump sees a porn star saying we had sex in the newspaper. Very high bar. It's why the federal prosecutors didn't bring it, in my view. They declined. They knew all this. They were going after Cohen on a bunch of other things. He was like, I got this one too. They had him plead guilty to it, but they knew all about this. In time to charge him at the federal level, decided not to do it. So now here's Alvin Bragg having promised to get Trump, and under all this pressure. And what does he do? He files the charge. It's like a camel, like the hump put on top of the hump. But, it's spun out of control now, where he's got like several ledges to his whole legal theory, and he's filed the case. The grand jury has chosen to indict. So that, Dave, is what brings us to tomorrow, where Alvin Bragg is going to have to put up or shut up. And it could be he's got more than we know. What do you think of that?
Well, thanks for having me back on the show, Megyn. And far from me to disagree with two brilliant legal minds.
No,
but
please
I'm
do.
going to disagree in part. First off, I would say this. I have said from the beginning, this looks like the fourth out of four cases against Donald Trump that's swirling around him as far as the strength of the case. I think the Mar-a-Lago documents, that's the greatest threat to Trump's future freedom. But it doesn't mean that this is a weak case. At least we don't know. I think it's premature to say that it's all based on the Stormy Daniels payments, because after all, Jennifer Weisselberg did testify before the grand jury, and she wouldn't seem to have knowledge.
Stop there. Literally nobody knows who that is. Explain her connection to Trump's former CFO.
Good point. Jennifer Weisselberg is the estranged ex-daughter-in-law of Alan Weisselberg, the longtime Trump Organization CFO. He knows where all the bodies are buried. He's sitting in a Rikers Island jail right now. And he is the one that the prosecutors have been trying to get to flip for some time. He has not yet flipped on Donald Trump. He testified against the Trump Organization that led to a guilty verdict against the Trump Organization, but not against Trump himself. So Jennifer Weisselberg went before the grand jury. She had a lot to say. She wouldn't seem to have
Let me just jump in quickly. This is so weird. So it's like you're an old guy. You're like 75, Alan Weisselberg is, former CFO of the Trump Organization. Your son marries this woman named Jennifer. Jennifer shows up at the family meals, the family holidays. Jennifer's got keen ears, allegedly. Jennifer listens to all the family convos. Then divorces your son. Then Jennifer inserts herself into this proceeding and says, I know where all the bodies are buried. My former father-in-law won't flip on Trump, but I have dirt and I am ready to spill it, right? Is that where we are so far?
Yeah, hell hath no fury like an ex-daughter-in-law scorned. So
it's unbelievable.
So she
Keep going.
testified, and that's what makes me think maybe there's more to it, because she wouldn't seem to know much about Stormy Daniels, but she would know some of the financial stuff that Alan Weisselberg knows. So perhaps this is more than just the hush money payment. But if we're going to go under the pretense that that is the hush money payment, I would agree with you that we don't know if prosecutors could even piggyback on federal law. Can a prosecutor at a state level piggyback on federal campaign law to make this a felony? We don't know. But a couple things to know when we say this is all political. First, Alvin Bragg, as you correctly noted, Megyn, he turned down the prosecution of Donald Trump a year ago when there was immense pressure to do so. He didn't think the evidence was enough. And so he said, no. Here, he thinks the evidence is enough. So he's doing his job as a prosecutor to follow the evidence and the law and not politics. But here's the other thing. When Michael Cohen was prosecuted by the feds, it was for, among other things, the hush money payments. He was prosecuted and convicted. Well, also, Donald Trump was not prosecuted at the time, even though he was referred to as individual number one, an unindicted co-conspirator. And that's because he was the president at the time, and you can't indict a current president. But you know who called him individual one and said he was an unindicted co-conspirator? It was the Trump DOJ. It wasn't some Soros-backed prosecutor. It was Trump's own DOJ who did it. So that's why I don't think this is purely political. And also, we just still, as I said, don't know what's in there yet.
Look, you did the tough thing during COVID. You paid your people and pulled your business through the pandemic. Now, doing the tough thing could qualify you for up to $26,000 per employee at covidtaxrelief.org. Government funds are available to reward companies with 2 or more employees who stayed open during COVID. This is not a loan, and you don't have to pay it back. The program is complicated, but no one knows more about it than the CPAs and tax experts at covidtaxrelief.org. You pay nothing up front. They do all the work and share a percentage of the cash they get for you. Businesses of all types, including nonprofits and churches, can qualify, including those who took PPP loans, even if you had increases in sales. You did the tough thing for your employees during COVID. Let covidtaxrelief.org help get you up to $26,000 per employee. Visit covidtaxrelief.org. That's covidtaxrelief.org, covidtaxrelief.org. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.